Shalom and good day all, this is Healing29 back again for some DC reviews, and in this DC review I'll be covering Absolute Power issue 2, Batman issue 151, and also Blue Scarab aka Blue Beetle, which it does have one of the original Blue Beetles being Ted Cord, but Jaime Reyes isn't Blue Beetle, he is Blue Scarab. That's what he should be called, and they should also do a series called Blue Scarab, centralized on him. Though he is connected to some of the Blue Beetle characters. So let me get things organized for the first one that I'll be reviewing. So as we start to move into the first thing that will be reviewed, we have Absolute Power issue 2, written by Mark Waid with art by Dan Mora. So first things first, does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that is happening inside with the story? Sure enough it does, to which what we see in the background there is the Fortress of Solitude, and that it has been invaded, and of course Superman, along with other members that are also there, are trying to fight off certain members as they also prepare for something else as well. For that, I gave the cover a 7.5 out of 10. So this is just giving the introduction as to what's happening with the story so far, and finally moving into the beginning of the art as to what we see here. And we can note it as we have a look at what's happening at the Hall of Order. We notice that Amanda Waller has basically a list of those that she's captured, as well as those who are still remain uncaptured in this particular event. I must admit, I do quite like the art here. As we draw to the middle of the story, we end up seeing a cyborg John Kent. Please take note that this is not the Dan Jurgens or Peter J. Tomasi John Kent. This is still the Brian Michael Bendis, Tom Taylor, John Kent timeline that we are following here. So anything that we do see in relation to John Kent, especially in a lot of present DC, it's not following the Jurgens Tomasi timeline. This is actually following a lot of the Bendis timeline as to how he ruined the character, and also how Tom Taylor ruined the character. And last but not least, we move towards the end of the story, to which a lot of things are taking place at Gamora Island, or in other words, this place has almost become a bit of a base for Amanda Waller at Gamora Island, until we finally see the return of Green Arrow. For the internal art, I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Now it's time to move in relation to the area of the story. Considering that this is connected, or has some tie-ins as well, were there any references to any of the tie-ins? No, there wasn't. Next is the area of time. So in the closest thing in relation to time, there was actually a bit of a countdown in relation to an attack or a set explosion to be taking place against the Fortress of Solitude. Next is the area of locations, to which we start off at Gamora, then we have the Hall of Order in the US, and of course the Fortress of Solitude, wherever that is presently situated right now in the DC universe. Moving into the next thing, and that is the cast of characters. If it's one little complaint I do have, is that I'm not surprised that, even though we do get like quite a big cast of characters, it probably wouldn't hurt to sort of point out as mainly the groups that are there. I think that might actually work better with this story. Even though we do get to see quite a number of characters in relation to this. Of course, we have Failsafe Brainiac Queen, Amanda Waller. We have Green Arrow. We have Dreamer. Someone kill her off. I mean it, just someone kill her off. Batman, Superman. We have Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Mr. Terrific, Nightwing, Oracle. They need to make up their bloody mind with Barbara Gordon. Is she Oracle or is she Batgirl? She can't be bloody both. If she's Oracle, put her back in the bloody wheelchair again. I mean it. Put her back in the wheelchair again. No ifs and or buts about it. Of course, we get to see some other characters, such as Ted Kord, Damian Wayne Robin, which was really nice to see. The character of Stargirl, which I really liked seeing her make an appearance. We had the members of the Titans. We had the Amazer. We had Cyborg, John Kent, and one other character. For the overall story rating in this, I did seem to like the issue enough that I gave it a 7.5 out of 10, but it is subject to change in the next issue. So now it's time to move into Batman issue 151. So as we start to move into Batman issue 151, does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that is happening inside with the story? Sure enough it does, to which I give it a 7 out of 10. I will not be covering the backstory in this because they did provide a backstory. Even though it is centered around Harley Quinn, it's not really necessary. And they really need to stop putting in the backstories in this. If you really want these backstories so badly to be read by the public, how about you put them in maybe an anthology thing that comes out each month? You know, it might make things a little bit more easier, and they'll get to know what stories are in there and where they're connected with. Like it could go with the Brave and the Bold series, or with something else. Just something that makes a little bit more sense. Alright, now it's time to move into the area of the internal art and also what's happening story-wise with the characters. So as the story begins, we catch up with Bruce and Selina as they prepare to go on a bit of a mission. And, of course, in this mission, they encounter the character of Bizarro. So whilst the mission continues, they end up getting taken taken through a particular portal whilst they're trying to apprehend something or get a hold of a mother box to help with the situation. Still being followed by Bizarro, who now has a bit of a cyborg arm, in case anyone hasn't noticed. For the internal art, I gave it a 7 out of 10. Now it's time to move in relation to the area of the story. First things first, do we get any comic book references? Sure enough, we do. We get issue 150 being mentioned, so the previous issue, as well as issue 89, which connects to the character, I think, of Deadshot, that makes his appearance. Next is the area of time, to which we get no indication as to where it's taking place time-wise, or where in the world time-wise. The location, it's not happening in Gotham, wherever we're going, and it should have been mentioned, the location, or at least shown where the location was. Even if it was put up in bold letters, it would really help the story. Next is the cast of characters, to which we get Bruce Wayne Batman, Selina Kyle Catwoman, we get the character of Bizarro, General Milner, Ms. Tesseract, and last but not least, the character of Deadshot. For the overall story rating of this, I give it a 7 out of 10. At least it's something that does tie into the present event that is occurring right now. I'll certainly give it that. Now it's time to move into Blue Beetle, aka Blue Scarab. So as we move into Blue Scarab, issue 11, even though it does say Blue Beetle on the cover, the series should really be called Blue Scarab and not Blue Beetle, as it makes sense for Jaime Reyes' character because he's always talking to the Scarab in quite a number of events and occasions. So hence Blue Scarab would make more sense instead of Blue Beetle. So first things first, does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that is happening inside of the story? Sure enough it does, to which I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Now it's time to move in relation to the area of the internal art and also what's happening story-wise with the characters as we have a look around the beginning, middle and of course the end. So as the story begins, Jaime Reyes gets a bit of a reunion with his family returning back home or coming to see him, and also see what's been happening with him whilst they've been away. As we start to jump towards the middle of the story, we get to see one of the green beetles, or the green scarabs at play, taking out one of the yellow scarabs at play, taking out someone by the name of Praying Mantis, and of course we move to the Oblivion Bar, to which we catch up with Thingo 13 and also Madame Xanadu. And last but not least, we get to see Jaime Reyes finally going to the Palmyra State University. So for the internal art, I give it a 7 out of 10. Now it's time to move in relation to the area of the story. Considering that we are 11 issues in, were there any references to any of the previous comics that were shown beforehand? No, there wasn't, though it probably wouldn't hurt to include maybe a couple of issues to help lay things out towards the end of the story. Next is the locations, which we get this, which we see the Palmyra City, the Palmyra State University, and the Oblivion Bar. Of course, we have the cast of characters consisting of Jaime Reyes, the Blue Scarab, Ted Cord, one of the original Blue Beetle characters. We have the character of Praying Mantis, the Yellow Scarab, 13, and Madame Xanadu. For the overall story rating of this, I give it a 7 out of 10. Until then, let's keep it colourful and have yourself an awesome day.